Hello and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. And I have a very special guest today. It's Dr. Jennifer Levine. Now, she's a board certified plastic or facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon in private practice in New York City, where she achieves believable beauty. I love that term, believable beauty, for her patients using surgical as well as non-surgical treatments. Now, Dr. Levine is triple Ivy League trained, having graduated from Columbia University, receiving her medical doctorate from Cornell, as well as additional training at Lenox Hill Hospital, Manhattan Eye, Ear, and Throat Hospital, and New York University Hospital. She's been featured in multiple major publications and TV programs that we're going to learn more about. And with that, Dr. Levine, welcome to Beauty in the Biz.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here and kind of just chat with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to start with, how did you become a facial plastic surgeon? Because most little girls don't grow up thinking that. So how did that happen?
It's really funny because I think the first thing that I wanted to do was to become president of the United States. I think I was in the third grade and someone said to me, girls can't do that. There's no women that have been president of the United States. And I remember feeling very angry about that. And unfortunately, that hasn't really changed yet. But I guess after I decided that I wasn't sure if being president was entirely possible, what I really like to do is my main activity when I was little was sketching and drawing. And my mother had taken me to a lot of different art classes, and I particularly liked to draw faces. And because I grew up in Brooklyn, we also spent a lot of time on the subway, and I would find myself looking at the person across from me on the subway and kind of sketching them and then maybe fixing their face a little bit. So I felt like that was, it was something that I was gravitating toward even at a young age. And then as I went through school, I liked the precision of math and science. So I really did like scientific pursuits. So I kind of felt like this idea of plastic surgery combines my natural ability and interest in art with kind of the method and precision of math and science. So I kind of felt like it kind of incorporated everything that I really enjoyed.
Well, it's certainly helpful to have that creative side doing what you do. Just tell us quickly the journey between fellowship to private practice. What kind of a jump was that, or many steps in between? How did that go?
Well, it was kind of there's never a straight journey. So it's always I felt like the path wasn't really smooth. Initially, when I had to even apply to my fellowship, I was pregnant, so I wasn't able to go on a lot of the interviews. And luckily I managed to get a fellowship that was in New York City. And then unfortunately, I also decided that I was going to get divorced. So I kind of had to figure out. So here it was, I was finishing my fellowship. I didn't have a job. I had a baby and I wanted desperately to, just be a very fancy aesthetic surgeon, but I also had to do things pay the rent, take care of my child. So I was fortunate enough that my one of my mentors and chair people were okay, you can rent some space from me part-time. And I was able to start a private practice. And otherwise I was kind of cobbling it together. So I would take call where I could and just pick up some clinics just so I had some income while I was building my private practice. And then just luckily over time, I was gradually able to give up all of those other things. And now my practice is entirely 100% aesthetics. And I don't do any reconstructive surgery really, except if it's someone has a torn earlobe, but really my practice is aesthetics.
So you're probably sleeping a lot more now than before.
Well, it's still, as I said, we had this new construction. So we just built we bought the office across the hall during COVID. So now we have this office, and an office that has a full OR and recovery room and all that other stuff. So that's
Good
been
for
keeping
you.
us here. That's been keeping us here kind of late. So I don't know about the sleeping part, but I certainly love what I do. So I'm grateful for that.
That's really interesting that you're doing a full build out, and it might not be Medicare approved, or perhaps. But
I'm on par with Medicare, so it has nothing to do with Medicare.
So how difficult is it to get things done right now in New York City with like limited supplies or contractors? Or
it's challenging. I'm lucky, that I had a great team. My architect and my construction company were the ones who had helped me do this office. So they were very mindful about that, and tried to only order supplies that they were making sure that they could get and that were in stock and available. So we weren't going to be waiting around for things that were never going to come. So I think with anything, you always need people to help you and guide you, and it makes it smoother. But yeah, we're still having the IT people across the hall, so we're not 100% there yet. But
what's the ETA on that?
The OR was inspected on Thursday, and we had 0 deficiencies, so that should be up and running soon, and the IT should be ready to go today. So we're going to be good to go.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your life will be a lot easier when you just walk across the hall than try to get across town.
That's what people say, but it's going to be, I'm sure in the beginning there's a lot of little things and stuff to get out of the way, but
everybody I know, all the surgeons I've talked to, I can't think of one who regretted doing it.
I agree.
And it's not the profit center that you think it might be,
No, I'm not doing it. It's more where ease and convenience and also control, being able to decide how things are going to be, what kind of experience it's going to be for the patients and for myself. So that ability to kind of make sure that it really truly is me and what I want it to be, I think is what's important to me.
Yeah. So tell me, what is your team consisting of? Are you growing this team?
So we have to hire. Yes, we're in the process of hiring more people, which, as we all know, staffing, I think, is a main issue for any business or our office. I think any business, medical or otherwise, I think staffing is always an issue. So we're in the process of hiring more people and increasing our team. So.
When you went into private practice, were you surprised at the business side of it, managing people?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Come on. Yeah. So basically, I went to Cornell Medical School, which was the ivory tower of medicine, where we would sit in a solarium and we discuss differential diagnosis. And they basically said advertising is bad. Business and medicine were separate, and they were not at all together. So I spent, most of my training just trying to be the best doctor that I could be. And I knew nothing about it. Nothing. I had no idea. And I think it's a pretty steep learning curve, It is not easy. And I'm by no means an expert. I'm still learning every day. But yeah, I don't think being a business person is something that's necessarily intuitive, but it does require a lot of dedication and consistency, and it's challenging. So I think that people who have more of a business background definitely have a leg up. If you had some ideas about this, that's
for sure. Well, it's the business background, but it's also that EQ factor that they talk about, people skills. Have you noticed that you've had to really bump up, how do you communicate with patients? How do you communicate with staff? How do you be the leader without being seen as
yeah. I think it's constantly evolving, and that you're right. It's a huge skill set, because it's not only about me, it's about, other people, and trying to shift your focus to, how you really want other people to feel, and understanding and connecting with people is something that's really important. And it's something, that I'm always trying to work on.
Yeah. I think it's a lifetime learn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Wow. Every time I think I've got people figured out, they confuse me.
No, yeah, but you see, I guess what happens like over time is you just become a little more like I know that there's lots of things I don't know, and I'm kind of more comfortable with that. Like I know that I don't have it all figured out, and that at some point I might know more than I do now, and I'll be grateful for that. But I know that there's a lot that I don't know, and I have to accept that. So I'm trying to get better with that. And apparently the word that you're supposed to think of is curious. You need to be curious. You need to want to know, that desire to know is what I'm trying to cultivate. Curiosity.
Good for you. I would say that for you to stay open and humble is going to last you a long time, because I've noticed as people get older too, and they've been around, they start closing up typically, and they're not open to learning anymore. And I'm so glad you have that open mindset. Yeah, it's important. Yeah. Regarding the procedures you're offering, you have a really good plethora of treatments and surgical procedures. What percentage of your practice is surgical versus non-surgical, and is that how you want it?
So I think it's about 50-50 now that I do surgery and I do these non-invasive procedures. And it kind of fluctuates according to the month. So there might be some months that we do more surgery and some months that we do more non-invasive procedures. And what I really like to do is I kind of see patients on a continuum. So sometimes patients need surgery and sometimes they need non-invasive procedures. So I feel like I want to offer the patient the procedure that's best for them. And I don't want to be limited by, is it surgical or non-surgical? If you only have a hammer, everything's a nail. So I don't really want to offer that for my patients. I really want to offer an individual and customized result that's going to make them look and feel their best. And sometimes it's surgical, sometimes it's non-surgical, and sometimes it's a combination. And the thing that I didn't realize about this field is how much of a relationship you can have with your patients and really follow them on this journey, which has been so wonderful, is that, I've really seen so many people over time, and, I'm fortunate enough that they send friends or family members. So I have a real deep connection to a lot of my patients. And I'm happy that, I'm able to say sometimes maybe we started off with non-surgical things and now they're ready for surgery and we move to that. Or sometimes they're a surgical patient and now we're maintaining the results with some non-surgical procedures. So it's very, I think, very rewarding in that way. And it's not like a one and done that I'm seeing the patient and then they're done with their procedure and I never see them again. So we don't really have that with our practice.
I love the patient for life philosophy that it sounds like you have. And I think in today's world, it's just an easier way to play this game. Doing the one and done thing, I find that would be exhausting. And I know a lot of surgeons do it that way, but I just think it would be a lot more fun and easier if you keep these patients coming back for more and bringing their friends and family and giving you good reviews and photos and growing this more organically.
Yeah. Yes.
So give me a mistake that you have made that you've learned from and you and that others could learn from without going through what you did.
Oh, that's it. I've made so many mistakes. Let's see. I think that, not investing in your staff or not, choosing the right staff people are some of the big mistakes that I've made. So in the beginning, I really wasn't sure what I was looking for, or I picked the wrong people, or they didn't do, we weren't in sync. So maybe they weren't, I'm not saying that they were bad people or anything like that, but we weren't moving in the same direction. So I think that without the right staff people, it's really hard to have a successful practice. So really investing in my staff is very important. And my staff is my most important resource. So yes, my patients are very important to me as well, but my staff are the people who are here to support me every single day. And I'm here to support them. So, I'm lucky there's not really been people who were who are like rude or not nice to staff members, but I would consider that like a big red flag. So that would be something that I would tolerate.
Yeah. And then have you brought on other revenue generators? Or are you the only one?
I have an esthetician, but that's what we're trying to do is get some more. We have like these other non-invasive machines that I don't have to run. So that's the idea, that there would be revenue streams without me.
Because those machines are terrific, but they're time consuming. And for
right. And I'm lucky enough in my state that they can be run by other people besides me. So
I remember in New Jersey, the surgeons had to do laser hair removal.
Right. That's just a waste of time.
Wrong.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So let's talk about the competition. Apparently you're from New York. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
All right. Otherwise, why in the world would you enter that jungle of uber competition? So
yeah, it's the only jungle I know. So
right. I mean, you're not in Ohio. You are like right off of Park Avenue, Upper East Side. It can't be more competitive. So how did you enter that marketplace, or what was your plan to say, okay, I'm here now, where am I going to position myself? Did you have any strategy to that, or just jump in?
So I guess, since I'm always from New York, I kind of, when I'm looking at something, you can't like run a race if you're looking behind your back at what other people are doing. So the only thing that you can do is you need to go forward. So it's like when I'm doing something, I don't think about the competition. I just think about what I need to do to get ahead or do my best. So my kind of idea is I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm not going to. This is about a competition. I can't control other people. There's plenty of people who are very smart and very talented, and there's plenty of patients out there. So all I can do is do my best and keep myself focused on doing that. And that's kind of been my mentality. Like I went to a large public high school in Brooklyn that had like 3,000 people, and I had like skipped a few years of school. So I was younger. And, I graduated number one in my class in high school. And then I went to Columbia, which is obviously a very competitive school. And then when I went to Cornell, they had like 4,500 applications for 100 people. So, I mean, everything that I've done has been competitive, but I can't, as I said, I can only do what I can do. And that's just kind of how I think about it. Like I'm not really looking at what other people are doing as much.
Well, you're quite the smarty pants. Good for you. Yeah. And isn't there something about Brooklyn, like really?
Must be in the water.
What is that? Because really, some heavy hitters come out of Brooklyn. Because would you say you got a lot out of that experience?
Well, I didn't have another experience to compare it to. But yeah, I mean, I think that, Brooklyn is about like, if you're going to work hard and do your best, then that's what it is. So that's like kind of, I think the mentality is that you're kind of like in it to win it, and you're going to keep going. Right? Like, I think that's the idea. It's like, I just kept going.
Yeah. Congratulations. So tell me about the patient demographics, because I think you're doing a lot of rhino, but you also do aging face. It's very difficult to market. It's very different markets, very different people. So how are you handling that?
Well, I think that, when I looked at the demographics of my patients, they're fairly evenly spaced. So we have patients of all decades coming to the practice. And I think it's because we offer a lot of different procedures. Certainly the older patients might come more frequently or may do more procedures than someone who is younger, but we kind of have all channels open. This is what we have. So we're kind of like encompassing all areas. That's like, I guess, the idea of like a liberal arts education. Like we want to know about everything, and we want to strive to do that. So that's my idea. It's like I'm not like somebody who only can do one thing. Like I've always kind of like the idea. That's why I do surgical and non-surgical. Like we treat people of different demographics because I keep things interesting. And I don't want to pigeon myself in one thing. I'm a person that I myself have different interests. So I kind of like that. I think it fits my personality.
So we should talk about how you're using social media, because you're doing a good job. You've got 30,000 followers. And are you just sticking with Instagram? Are you jumping into the TikTok world? And
oh yeah, I mean, I think the thing about social media or marketing in general is you have to kind of do something on all channels, because you don't really know how people are going to find you, and they have to be able to find you on through multiple avenues. So it's just obviously we might pay more attention to Instagram than we do to TikTok, but we try to do some things on pretty much all of the channels to a certain extent, because you never know where people are looking. So we kind of make sure that we have something going on. We are going to concentrate our efforts more on certain things than others, and maybe certain times we might switch our strategy a little bit, but we kind of try to have it encompass everything, because it's not enough to be on only one channel.
For sure. And do you have a social media team helping you? And if so, what do they consider?
Yeah. So I have people who obviously, like in our office, we're going to come up with a strategy, and then I might not do like the physical post. Sometimes I do, but we do actively talk about it every week, and come up with a strategy and a plan. We have a calendar that we're going to post on. We make sure we send out a newsletter. So it is scheduled. It is, we do have social media meetings. So, I mean, we don't spend like every day doing social media for several hours, but we do try to at least have a plan and a calendar of what we're going to post.
How much time do you think you put in weekly on social?
Oh, I mean, several hours. I would say like between 5 to 10 hours still.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it look easy, but there's a lot of work that goes into that.
There's nothing easy. Nothing's ever easy. You have to think about what it is you're doing, what you want to say. And also, like, social media is really like a conversation. So it's not only about what you're doing on your channel, but I think it's like very important to interact with other people, and let them know they're doing a great job, or really like. I learn a lot from some other people's social media posts, or I see cool things that they're doing, or some of those results are beautiful. So it's just nice to share, and be positive to other people.
And do you have a videographer that's helping you out, or are you just doing it with iPhones?
No, we do it with iPhones.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think you almost need a videographer in today's world, or somebody who's good at video editing, because you want
to. Video editing is the main problem, I think. The video quality on some of the newer iPhones is actually like really good. But the editing process is very important, because obviously you're using the video to tell a story. So if it's not edited properly, it doesn't tell that story in that same way. So yes, editing is very important.
Well, you're doing something that I recommend to my clients all the time, which is do educational videos, and you can put them on YouTube, but also put them on your website. Just have them everywhere, because people want to hear you. You'll like surgeons say, everyone knows all this already. You can get it all on the internet, but they didn't hear from you.
Well, they don't. But the thing is they don't know. Yeah. Some people know, but most people don't. Most people don't know. And even if they've heard it, they're certainly not an expert on it. So hearing it again can be quite helpful.
For sure. And you know what I noticed? Can you just talk about I was trying to think, like, how does she differentiate herself being in New York City? And I was on your website, and under the procedures, it had Upneek eye drops. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, sign me up. I never had.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. They're amazing eye drops. So what it does is it works on something called the Mueller's muscle. So basically, like the main elevator of the eyelid is the levator. But there are other muscles under sympathetic control that can open up the eye. But unlike other medications that either have stimulated those receptors, but either cause habituation or allergies, Upneeq doesn't do any of those things. So it's a really good product. It doesn't hurt. You can put it in every day, and it's great.
Well, I was taking some eye drops for nearsightedness. So you can take some drops, and then your, if you need reading glasses, it would take that need away.
Oh, for the farsightedness, yes. I have heard of those.
So
how are those working?
Well, I did it for over a month because I thought if I can get rid of all these contacts and the reading glasses, I'm good. But what was happening was it was distorting my farsightedness and my nearsightedness.
So that's good.
Yeah, so it was
see.
I don't know if you had to, I had to do it a lot longer to make it even out, but it just wasn't working. And I
don't know too much about that. So Upneeq is a drop that works right away. So it starts about 15 minutes after you put it in. And the peak effect is at 2 hours and lasts for about 8 hours. So I have used this drop and it's great, but you see it work right away. So it's not like you have to wait.
So the point is it's opening up your eye. It's making it look whiter and brighter. Is that the point?
Yeah, and bigger because it's yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I need that. Yeah, so
everybody needs that.
Yeah. So let's talk about PR because you've done a really good job with the media. I'm sure some of it's paid, some of it's not, some of it's connections. Like how did you handle this PR? And is it still a viable marketing channel for you? Or
so I've been very fortunate in that. Because I have a lot of these industry relations, I mainly work with those PR firms. So I'm not paying for that. They're so some of these things I work with a PR firm of these other companies and they get me these media things. So, but now that I am going to be opening up the new office, I may actually get my own PR, but that's not something that I've otherwise done. It's just we relied on these other connections that we have with these other companies, and we've been fortunate that they send editors and other people, or they make video. We make videos and they edit them and they do all that stuff. So that's been very lucky.
I often recommend for people who want PR, I say start with the medical societies and the vendors. They all have their own PR departments. So, piggyback off of them first,
Yeah.
Yeah. So wait, I had a question about that. Would you say PR is as good or better than, let's say, trying to work with influencers and social media? Do you think in today's world you can just do that on your own, or you need sophisticated PR agencies to help?
I don't have the answer to that. Maybe in a few months after, if I try my own PR, then I would know better. But I think to a certain extent, I have done it by myself for a while. So I think it's possible. But I think that like any industry, there may be a certain pay to play effort that I don't know about. But if I try my own PR, then I'll get back to you and let you know if that's indeed the case.
Have you worked with any influencers?
Yes, I think influencers are kind of like a mixed bag. I've worked with some influencers that have been great and some influencers that have been duds. So I think it's a little bit of a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm. So please tell them something that's very interesting about you, and it's a relative of yours. Who's your cousin?
That was an April Fool's joke.
Oh, you're kidding!
Not your cousin? He's not my cousin, no. That was
All right. What I'm referring to...
No, Adam Levine is not my cousin, but we did that post for April Fools. So we got you, Catherine.
Well, I'm thinking, that is amazing. Yeah, I didn't know he grew up in New York City. And, did everyone... And I was...
He did go to my camp, though. I know that counts, but...
Okay. So what else is interesting about you that's not about Adam Levine?
I'm a mom. So I have two beautiful, accomplished daughters that I'm very proud of. So that's one thing.
That's a pretty big thing.
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing. Let's see what else that we haven't covered. I mean, we really covered most of it. I'm very excited about my new office. I really feel, I find it very interesting that, anytime that they're like quoting plastic surgeons about surgical procedures, especially of the face, most of the time they're quoting men. The men are in the media, the men are on the podium. So I'm trying to kind of working to change that, because we have women are still the majority of the aging face population. And I think that there's something about probably some of this surgery under the male gaze that may not be completely what women want. So I'm kind of exploring that a little bit and trying to change that a little bit, because I think most of the time women, really want to look like themselves. And it's not that we don't want to look more youthful or, have a change, but I think that there's a real desire not to look artificial. And I think also there are some people that don't want to be like, they want an appropriate result. So I think that as a woman, sometimes I'm able to connect a little bit more to my women patients about that.
It's really weird. I got into this industry 22 years ago, and I was in San Francisco, and we had mega doctors. Like we had Jack Owsley and Bruno Risto, who are like infamous for facelifts. But you could see these facelifts a mile away. And you know what I learned?
Right.
The patients wanted, at that point in time, the patients wanted people to know that they spent a lot of money.
Right.
So I thought, that's interesting.
Kind of like a logo.
Right.
Kind of like a logo. It was a sign of wealth.
Right.
That they didn't care if they looked tight or pulled. I agree. But I think I think times are changing.
Yes,
so
for sure.
Probably.
Yes. I'd rather have a nip and tuck every year than a major overhaul every decade.
Right. Right.
It's insane to me. Yeah. So I love that you're growing your practice organically and growing it from patients who come back again and again. I just think that's a really smart move in today's world. So good for you. Yeah. So any words of wisdom to anybody coming up or anyone working, let's say in a hospital and they're thinking about going out on their own? Any thoughts on that?
I think that you have to ask for help. I think that you need to ask people for advice, and it's very hard to do this yourself. I don't think it's intuitive. So I think you need to ask for help, wherever you can. So one of the things that we didn't talk about that I did that was helpful to me is I joined this organization. I'm actually not doing it anymore, but I did do it for a number of years, called the WPO, the Women's President Organization.
Good for you.
And that was really like a business organization. So we would have this monthly meeting that was about 4 hours. You had to go to the meeting, and everybody had a different business. And we would talk about the challenges that occurred in business and kind of how to deal with them. So someone would have to present an issue or a problem. We would kind of have a round table about that with specific cues about how to respond. There were points you were allowed to ask questions, and then there were points where you could give advice, but you had to give advice in a specific way. You had to say, you couldn't say you should do this. You had to say, if I were you, I would. And I was very lucky in my particular chapter. A lot of the women had gone to Harvard Business School. They were really, really smart. And I really learned a lot about business from being in this group. So I didn't acquire this knowledge I did invest, time and energy into learning more about these things. And that was extremely helpful into how I thought about my practice, how I thought about growing my practice, because I don't think that as a physician, any of those ideas were ever really explained to me. And I wouldn't have thought about things in the way that I did without that kind of support and information and framework.
For sure. In my world of business and marketing, we call them masterminds. And everyone's read Think and Grow Rich. And masterminding is the whole thing about coming together collectively, listening to other viewpoints and perspectives. It's that perspective that's so darn important. So I highly recommend everybody have some kind of outside counsel who's helping
you need help. This isn't like do it yourself and you're not going to figure it out yourself. Like you need some help. And
it's going to take too long to figure it out, like in today's world, you've got to get there a lot faster than before.
It still takes some time for everyone to figure it out because everyone's journey and path is like a little different. And I think that we have to be accepting that it's not instant. It's going to take time. We want it all to be fast, but it may not be fast, and that's okay. Like it has to be authentic, and it has to grow in the right way. And it does take time, and it takes more time than any of us would like. But
right,
that's just what it is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, everybody. That is our episode for today. If you would, head over to Beauty and the Biz and subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes. And if you've got any questions for Dr. Levine, how could they get a hold of you?
So they can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. Jennifer Levine, or send a inquiry to info@drjenniferlevine.com, or our office number is 212-517-9400, and we'd love to hear from you.
Terrific. And then if you've got any questions or feedback for me, you can leave them on my website at katherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.